This is Professor Teresa Pelkie. This is Session 11, Part 2, Create and Maintain a View. To finish up our discussion about SQL views, we'll once again review an SQL select statement that we've seen before. We'll see how you can turn this statement into a view. This is the join in the college database that gets a list of students who have an advisor and who have been awarded a scholarship. As I discussed in the previous video, you might want to make this query available to other users. Maybe they will need to periodically run this query as a part of their work, or it might be used to get data for a report. Rather than provide your users with this complex select statement, you can create a view based on this statement. You then let your users work with the view. Here you see an example of what the select statement might look like after you have created a view based on the select statement that was on the previous slide. As you can see, the select statement is much easier to work with. If you have to show this to a user, it will be much easier to show them how to work with this statement rather than have them work with the statement on the previous slide. Keep in mind, a view is an actual object that is stored in the database. If you did not create a view, you would have to save the select statement, probably in a text file. You would then need to open that file to run the statement again. If you create a view based on the statement, you can simply work with the view like you would any other table in your database. Another advantage of creating a view is that you are giving a name to your saved queries. When you look at the views that you have created in your database, you should be able to easily pick out the view that you want to work with based on its name. So how do we create a view? As with any other object in an SQL database, you create the object by running one or more data definition language or DDL statements. In the Navigator part of Workbench, expand the schema and right-click on the Views item. You can see this in the picture on the left side of this slide. The Navigator shows that the college schema is expanded. When you right-click on the Views item, you get the option to create a view and to refresh the list of items under the Views item. Since there are currently no views in the schema, the Refresh All option would not do anything. When you click the Create View item, the Workbench opens a DDL editor panel. It contains a partial Create View statement as a starting point for you. Your job is to assign a name to the view. In this example, the name is students_scholarships, which you can see on line 1 of the DDL editor panel. Next, you supply the select statement that describes the view. Now, when you get to this panel, you'll most likely have already entered and run the SQL statement in an editor panel. You would do that first so that you can review the result grid for the statement and make sure that you get the results that you need. Keep in mind, you are not only looking for correct data in terms of any joins. You are also looking at the column headings, column aliases, and the results of any calculations or function values that you performed on the columns. You need to remember that what you get in the result grid when you develop and test the select statement is what you'll get if you use that same statement to define the view. So once you've developed and tested the select statement, the easiest way to create a view is to simply copy and paste the entire select statement from the editor panel into the DDL panel. It's not complicated. Creating a view really amounts to starting with a working select statement, then putting the Create View DDL statement at the beginning of the select. Now when you create a view using Workbench, you are not going to run the view using the DDL editor. Instead, the DDL editor is used to run the Create View statement. You won't get a result grid at this point, so you need to click the Apply button shown in the bottom right corner of this slide. When you click that button, the Create View statement runs. The Workbench launches the Apply SQL script to Database panel shown on the left side of this slide. The Apply panel shows the Create View statement that will be run. You click the Apply button on this panel, and another panel is displayed to show the results. If there are no errors in the script, the panel shown on the right is displayed, at which point you can click the Finish button. If there are any errors in the script or in the creation process, you'll see the error message on the panel. If you get an error, you can just cancel out of these panels and go back to the DDL editor to make the needed corrections to the code. After making the corrections, just go through the steps again. You are practically guaranteed to be able to create a view on the first pass if you will run and test the SQL statement first in a Workbench panel. Don't try to enter the code directly into the Create View DDL panel. Copy and paste it from a working editor panel instead. After you've created the view, you can go back to the navigator. Now when you right-click the Views item, you can click the Refresh All item. You will see the new view object that was created as shown in the figures on this slide. You can expand the view object to see the columns that are included in the view as shown on the left. Once you click on the view object, you'll see the three icons on the right. These work the same as the icons for a table. You can click the icons to get more information about the view and to run the view and open a result grid to show the results. As far as maintaining the view, there are really only two things you might do with the view: alter it or drop it. If you need to make a change to the view, you can right-click on the view in the navigator and click the Alter View item, shown in the pop-up menu on the right. That opens the DDL editor again. If the change is trivial, such as adding or changing a column alias, you can make the change directly in the DDL editor panel, then click the Apply button to apply the changes. If the change is more complicated, for example, if you need to add another table in a join, you might want to use the technique of copying and pasting the SQL from a Workbench panel where you have tested the statement first. If necessary, you can use the Drop View item on the pop-up menu to remove the view from the database. Keep this in mind if you develop a lot of views. You may find over time that you have developed some views for testing or temporary requirements. Rather than accumulate a lot of unused views, you can use the Drop View item to get rid of views that you no longer need. In the next video, we'll look at subqueries and see how and why they are used in SQL.